So I'm going to show you how to do responsive design in CodePen. So let's start with the file that you had from week 5 where you've added some columns and some rows. So I've opened the week 5 file here. If we have a look down here, you can see I've got 2 columns. And so what we're going to do is collapse those 2 columns into one column when you're viewing this on a mobile device. So the first thing I'm going to do is fork my project, and that means it's going to make a copy of it. I'll call this week 7 video so it's not confused with my previous week 7 project. And here we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is have a look where we've given instructions to create these 2 columns, and we're going to change those instructions. So we're not doing it for anyone where there's just one single column wide, because that's already 12 columns wide. That's going to stay the same for a mobile device. So here where we've got the heading, if we go into the view, that can stay the same. The subheading, buy your bulbs now for spring flowering, that can stay the same. The time we have to change it is where we get down here. So you'll remember from week 5, we said we're going to put col6, and what that does is it halves the width of the page because Bootstrap is built on a 12 column grid. And it says 6 of those columns need to be for this column here. And then when we go down here, 6 of those columns need to be for this column here. So how do we change that? Well, the first thing we need to say is that this 6 columns now is only for a large screen. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm effectively going to copy this instruction, col, but I'm going to say large, LG, 6. And that means it's going to create that layout for large screens. And we can see that already, but that's also because we've still got the col6 here. So let's just update both of them with that instruction. So just remember that it inherits up. So it means that once it hits that large size, it's going to change it to 6 columns. And anything large. So there's also an extra large setting in the current version of Bootstrap, and that will maintain that 6 columns wide. So now the thing we have to change is our instruction to the mobile devices, and Bootstrap is mobile first. It means that the default here, which is col6, is actually for the smallest size. That's considered the default. So rather than saying col6, what we want to say is col12. And what happens here is that when you are at the smallest size, so anything smaller than large, it will give this instruction of col12. And we will give it in the other column as well. So what happens now? I'm going to save this and I will demonstrate. So now rather than col6, we have col12 and col large 6. And I'll change the view to the full page view so that you can see this difference here. I'll close out of that add there. Okay, so you can see we've got our 2 columns here. And if I shrink this, you can see it's now 1 column. Because what it does is it has a look at the code and it says, well, we're at a mobile device size. I'll shrink it a bit more so we're definitely at a mobile device size. For the header, it says col. So it's just going to give you 1 column regardless of the size. Same with the subheading here. But down here where it has the 2 columns, because it's at the small size, the smaller than the large size, it says, well, you want it to be 12 columns wide. Now, Bootstrap is 12 columns wide, so that means it effectively fills the entire row. We don't have to instruct it to make another row. All it does is wrap the next lot of content to the next line. So this is still all in one row in Bootstrap. The difference is it's wrapped to the next line. It's moved the column 2 down below column 1 because we've told it each of those columns is 12 columns wide. There's not enough room to fit them all in one row because it's only 12 columns, and so it neatly puts the next column down below that one. And the moment we get to a large size, let's jump, there we go, you get to a large size and it places them side by side because we've given a different set of instructions for the large view. If we go back here, for the large view, we have said col large 6. So this is all you need to do in your code this week. Wherever you have columns side by side, I strongly recommend you change it to col 12 so that that column fills the entire width, because that's the easiest way to read, scroll down, interact with a website on a mobile device, as if it is the full width of the page. And then when you get to the large size, that's when you put in the individual columns. So whether that's 6 and 6, or whether that's 4 and 8, as long as it adds up to 12 or less, those columns will sit side by side.